So if you could be here around 9, that would be great. Okay?
Well, listen here.
Hello, and welcome to 90 Day Fiance MK. I'm Mr. O, and today, Miss H and I will be discussing the Season 6 Tell-All, Part 1 of Happily Ever After. In this episode, we hear at least a little from 4 couples. Mike and Natalie talk about their living arrangements. Tiffany and Ronald talk about Tiffany's relationship with production. Brandon and Julia talk about where they're going to live moving forward. And Angela gets some cast member sympathy before yet another tell-all meltdown. If you like what you hear, please give us a 5-star rating and subscribe. If you also watch Love After Lockup, please listen to our other podcast, Love After Lockup MK. All right, thanks for listening, stay safe, and enjoy.
Hello, Mr. O.
Hello, Miss H.
How are you on vacation?
I have a drink in my hand that I'm drinking right now. It's very nice.
Gosh, that looked like water. I guess a vodka water, I'm going to guess.
It's vodka and seltzer, yes. Uh-huh.
Oh, nice. So, for the record, Mr. O is on vacation. Where are you again?
I'm in Charlottesville, Virginia.
Charlottesville, Virginia.
Yes, it's a driving distance from me. Yeah.
With who?
With my girlfriend that I am with. And it's not Miss H, by the way.
Yes, guess where Miss H is? She's in California. And I am working, so, I'm definitely not there. So for the record, because it seems that we've had a couple comments, DMs and reviews, etc., that somehow seem to think, and I don't want to say it's like out of nowhere. I think anytime you have people who have good banter, maybe you kind of read more into it than there is. But Mr. O and I are just friends. Nothing happened on any of the visits that we've ever had. We really just are friends. And Mr. O actually has a serious girlfriend. They've been together for almost a year now, right? You still
getting close.
Next month or so. Yeah. So, and we support each other's partners. Mr. O's girlfriend is perfectly pleasant. In fact, she was the one who co-hosted with you when I was gone last. Was it December?
She was Miss M.
Gosh, it's been a while ago.
A while ago, yeah.
All right, so yeah. Okay, but we're not talking about our couples. We are talking about the show's couples.
Yes.
And some of the couples that we didn't see much of, even though they were in the episode. We saw Yara and Jovi, where we find out that, Yara says that they've been fighting a lot because Jovi is the issue. She made that pretty clear. We saw Kalani and Asuelu. Kalani mentioned that she's not looking forward to potentially seeing Asuelu's mom and sister, who we see from the previews will be here. Mm-hmm. And we didn't see much from Andre and Libby, who really just they didn't even really get a question. They just walked in like rock stars with their, stunner shades on, owning the place.
Right, the coolest people. I mean, I appreciate at least from those little one-offs that Kalani at least knows the game. I feel like all these other people are surprised. Oh, the person that caused you the most drama this past season, guess what? They're here. And they're like, I'm surprised by that. Why would that happen? It's like,
right.
All right. But we did talk to a bunch of other people. We talked to the other 4 couples. I'm going to talk first about what we heard about Tiffany and Ronald. So Ronald is zooming into the tell-all. And he says beforehand that he wants to keep the record straight. Tiffany also, before this thing starts, comes in and then has to change into an outfit to show her shoulders to really unleash her Tiffany power. But
sure.
She says she's basically cut off Ronald from being a dad. She's in the States because of what he's done. When Sean finally does shift the attention back to them to focus on them, Tiffany fills us in on what happened after the final scene in the season. Tiffany started packing her bags, and then Ronald figured out, oh wait, she's serious, and started begging her forgiveness. She ended up staying in South Africa till March. Now, I think we're going to come back to this. I'm going to start with this later, but I don't know what Daniel was doing for school this whole time, but...
it's possible that he was remote, And I mean,
I have suspicions because
awful.
I did the time conversion. It would have been from 4 to 10 p.m. or something. He would have been remote. So, yikes. Anyway... But we're going to watch Ronald, then they switch off that, moving on, because what we're going to see is Ronald making an ass of himself by saying weird things like a woman can't be a man. And then Tiffany get back on, her favorite high horse and talk about, I'm doing this all alone and raising the kids alone. Anyway, veering out of her lane, Yara pipes up and says maybe if Tiffany didn't crush Ronald every time there was something to do, she might have more help with the kids. Especially after there was this weird thing where they said Tiffany forgot to file the tax paperwork, and that's why Ronald didn't get his visa to come to the U.S.
Oh.
Anyway, they bicker a lot about who even wants Ronald to come. Does he want to come? Does Tiffany want him there? And then, and then they show us the clip of the counseling session. And which ends with Ronald's weird kidnapping speech. So he wants to emphasize after they show that he did apologize to Tiffany for treating her badly. But at this point, Ronald brings up that his real issue with that night after the counseling was that how Tiffany was way too friendly with the cameraman. And that night was just, drinking up a Bacardi and mixing it up with the guy. Anyway, Tiffany just kind of takes this attitude like he's full of shit, and his jealousy, whatever, is just his problem. So then they bring in the moms. Rhea, Ronald's mom, thinks that the couple is a great match and doesn't want to lose Tiffany as a daughter if they broke up. Maggie, Tiffany's mom, says, they're both imperfect, but everything's Ronald's fault. Anyway, Tiffany says that there's still love in the relationship, but if they didn't have kids, they would probably be divorced by now. Ronald says that he has his faults, but he loves Tiffany, who then markedly doesn't reciprocate either of those feelings. So then we come back to them briefly when Tiffany announces that she's getting the same surgery that Angela had. And we'll definitely come back to Angela later on. Oh, gosh,
yes.
All right, so
the
what
lap band or whatever.
Yeah,
surgery.
I guess it would be the lap band, right? And they kind of gave her a hard time about it. Angela's old. She can't lose weight. You're young. You should have more strength or something.
Oh, my gosh. Well, this same conversation kind of happened at the end of the last tell-all of just the regular 90-Day Fiance.
The gym club.
With
the gym club.
Yes,
Why not go to gym club? Yes.
Exactly. And so it involves the same kind of group of people, essentially. So, yeah. I think you're going to get people who are very squarely in the, you got to earn it, to really live it, as opposed to people who are it's just easier to get surgery.
Right. Well, I'm more on board with the surgery because no matter what it takes, it's not healthy to be that size. So you got to be smaller.
Sure.
Whether you earned it or not, it's not just complete vanity, right?
Yeah, and I mean, people have been trying too, so it's not like you're just one day oh, you know what? I don't want to be fat anymore, so I'm just going to get this surgery. It's more no, I've been trying to diet, and either it's difficult for me, impulsively, or, there's probably a lot of emotional stuff behind it too, emotional eating. And I'm sure
there's with Tiffany, it's just a matter of you only have so much bandwidth and willpower to deal with stress. And when you've been doing work and your kids and everything at night, just to deal with it with your food and your diet is just too much. Plus, man, unhealthy food is much easier and takes much less time to make. It just does.
Yeah. So, I mean, sometimes it's just a matter of you've tried other ways and the other ways just were not working, or you just couldn't do them, and so it's this is another option. And, I don't think we should be hating on people for, because like you said, at the end of the day, really, it's just you got to get to healthy weight,
Right. So I want to talk about the cameraman.
Oh, gosh. Okay.
Because I don't know what your read on it was, but my read of Tiffany's body language is she knew exactly what Ronald was talking about and was trying to make it sound like he's just crazy. I don't know what he's talking about. This is just out of nowhere. And I think she knew exactly what he was talking about.
Yes and no. So the thing is, and we kind of briefly had talked about this last week because we were talking about the preview. So she had come out, even on social media last week after the preview, she just came out defending herself. So she had said that part of it was that, Ronald was suspicious even before because this is someone that had followed her around when she was filming by herself with the kids in the U.S. So Ronald wasn't even there. So they already had a rapport and a relationship with one another from before. And so he's, saying, well, then you were inappropriate because, it's kind of past that, whatever is the third wall or whatever they call it.
Right.
without that separation and just, bantering with him and, whatever that makes you think that there's something going on.
I mean, I think his issue was, and I don't think this is the first time she heard of it. And I think that bothered me, that she acted like, well, he's never said this to me before at all. And I think he had said something about him.
No, I absolutely think so too. I think also what made it more difficult for Ronald to kind of like not be mad about, like to react immediately, is when he saw her laughing, he just immediately went to the conclusion that they're laughing at his expense, that it's at him. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think what happened, and he kind of said this a few times, is I think she was like at times giving him the silent treatment, but like yakking it up with this cameraman all the time. And he's like, well, you've been here for a week. You've talked to the cameraman for 4 hours a day. You talk to me for 20 minutes a day. Like, how am I your husband? Like, what is this?
Right. I can see that too. But for him to then imply that something more is going on, I think is the kind of immature part of all of that.
And make no mistake. It's one of those things that I know I kind of harp on how much I don't like Tiffany, because I just think it's so hard to see how kind of, harsh she is.
Oh, yeah, she is.
Because you're comparing it to Ronald.
To Ronald,
who's a total asshole. Like, I'm not saying Ronald's a good dude. He's a complete asshole.
He really is. Like, oh, gosh. You know what I thought was really interesting is, so he came off all like, when they were first out there, he came off all like, oh, I'm gonna reveal secrets and I'm gonna tell you all how it really is. Like, kind of like he had like Major T to spill, and like that would make her look really bad, right? He went from that demeanor to like oh, I really love them and I want to make them work out. But what I thought was really interesting is he didn't really change his tone until his mom was there. And that reminded me of...
That was Tiffany's beef.
Yeah, was the fact that, he was acting like super dad once, his mom had shown up, almost like he was trying to prove that he was this other person, for his mom. And I kind of felt like, okay, I could understand her frustration. 2 seconds ago, he's like trying to ruin her reputation and like really trying to make her look really bad. Whether or not it was the truth, he didn't seem to care. He was just like, I don't care if there's just speculation or rumors. I'm going to tell you what I think is happening. To go from that to then be like, oh, I really want to make it work, and it was just like, I felt like it was because his mom was there and he's just trying to make it look a certain way in front of his mom.
It is his mom, but he also just flies between those two extremes so quickly. No matter what's going on. Oh, screw you, you're screwing this camera guy. Blah, 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 blah. Oh, by the way, also, I'm so sorry for mistreating you. And I just wanted us to come back and be a whole family. And, God, I can't believe you didn't do that. He just is so, unpredictable. Like, I can see where he's so hard to deal with. I mean, you could see it on here. He comes in so contrite. Even before his mom showed up, he initially starts off with, oh, Tiffany does so much. And I apologize to her for mistreating her. And then just as soon as something doesn't go his way or he feels the other cast members going off at him, he's like, well, let me tell you about this.
Yeah. I do have a little bit of beef with Tiffany staying there so long. So it's like she's the one who's been saying since the other way, because that's where they started off. They started off on the other way, saying like, I don't want to move to South Africa. It's really dangerous. I'm putting my children at risk, and that was like her major argument for moving back to the US. And it's like, but you say that, but you literally spent almost 4 months in South Africa. So it's like, is that really the reason why you left? Because, like safety doesn't change just because you're there temporarily. It's still the same amount of like danger. So it was confusing to me why she was okay with 4 months, but not like living there permanently.
Yeah. I mean, the school thing really bothered me. And because I'm a teacher and because this whole school year was hard enough for kids. Yeah. Yeah. Like, because I know where she lives. She lives in Frederick, Maryland. Like it's not too far from where I am. And they were doing, he could have been in school halftime during that time. I mean, he could zoom in too, just like everybody else. But I did, like I said earlier, I did the time conversion. If she had him staying in virtual school, he was doing it from 4 till 10 every day. Like, that's not what's best for the kids. She keeps saying, I want to do what's best for the kids. And that's not it. Like, And so I don't know what she does think is best for the kids then, because that seems like a suspicious decision. Let me hit another one, because they all fell on my lap this time.
I know. Felt like I was on vacation.
Yeah, I feel like this was like almost half the show, and it kept coming back to them. It's Mike and Natalie.
Yes.
Right. So there was a decent amount of telling on this one, though. So I'm okay with it.
Yes, there was. Yeah.
So pre-show, Mike says he's ready to lay it out all the line and is ready for the paint. Natalie is nervous to have another fight with Mike. When the show starts, Mike's still MIA, but, he shows up. Sean starts with them. And Mike says that right now there is no relationship, except maybe on paper, and Natalie says they're not together, and that she's living in Florida now.
That's so weird.
Literally as far away as she can get and still be in the country. Mike knows that she lives in Florida, but not where or with who or anything like that. So again, Natalie kind of blames Mike for everything and says it's all because of his devotion to his work after COVID hit. So Andre chimes in and is like, well, that's not a problem. He wants to work. What's the problem there? Work, Andre. Angela pipes up too, and this becomes a theme that kind of comes back and back and back every time we do this. And Angela get it up first. It's like kind of weird that you divorced him and left him, but didn't leave the country and go back to Ukraine, and you stayed in America and in Florida. So anyway, Natalie rants and raves about how hard it was to live in the wood and being on antidepressants before Sean asks if they've been seeing anyone else. They both say no, but then Jovi jumps in and says, what about the guy we saw you with in New Orleans? So it turns out that, he and Yara had dinner with Natalie and some other guy. And then Natalie tells this weird story that she was just like, oh, it was a Russian guy I met online, so I would be okay in New Orleans. And he just came here with me to this thing. Anyway, but it's not romantic, and I didn't sleep with him. So anyway, then Julia jumps in to wonder, how is Natalie paying for her apartment and everything in Florida? And the answer is she has Mike's big card, which I assume meant his credit card with a high limit. Bank card? Was that what he said? Okay.
I thought so.
I thought the subtitle said big card, I thought. And I was like, what is a big card? Anyway, at this point, Mike tells us that he plans on filing for divorce. So we swing back to them later on the show because, we got to have Trish on to let her feelings be known.
God.
So they sit her on this weird, other chair on the complete other side of the stage, which is the guest chair. And, she welcomes the news that Mike is filing for divorce. She says that every word Natalie says is a lie, so everybody should just not believe anything she says. They get back into hooker gates, which is just he said, she said. And then they have a weird, hard to follow argument that goes in all kinds of different directions. But it comes back to Mike getting phone boobs. Anyway, so the week before he got engaged, Natalie says that she was, on his phone and inadvertently came across photos on his deleted items folder. And Mike says it was just some ex that was trying to get back with him. All right. So anyway, they drop that when Yara says that Trish is too involved and that, he's Natalie's husband. So why is mom so up in everybody's business? After a while, Angela's just tired of hearing this shit. Because nobody's talking to her. So, if you don't want to be with him, then go home, which is when everybody else seems to notice how weird it is and suspicious it is that she is not back in Ukraine. So after they cut, Trish confronts Natalie to her face on stage, calling her an evil liar. And then there was this whole thing about Natalie accused Beau of stealing jewelry. And then Trish thought she pawned the jewelry. There was a lot going on. Anyway, backstage, Natalie calls her mom to tell her that she and Mike are broken up. So, all right. So I had this. This is the discussion I had when I saw this up. Maybe it's because I have an Android phone. So you'll have to fill me in with the iPhone thing.
Okay.
Items do not go to my deleted folder from my messages unless I download them first.
So I think... Oh, actually, that's a good point.
If somebody sends me a message, it's in my messages, but it's not... you have to download them.
Yes, exactly. I didn't even think about that. I just thought they were on his camera roll is what I was assuming.
Well, she said it was in the deleted items.
Oh, well, I don't know.
So do they end up on your camera roll? You don't just take things off of iMessage and put it on your camera roll, right? You have to download it first.
Right, you do. And then it shows up on your camera roll. So I wasn't even thinking about that. I thought it was that because they were kind of vague. I must have missed that part where it's in deleted items. They were saying that, she had taken a picture and she wanted to take a look at the picture that, they had just taken. So she had used his phone to look at the picture. And when she was scrolling through the pictures that they had just taken, she kind of swiped onto the nude pics.
There are boobs.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But even if that was the case, at least, again, speaking on Android phones, if I'm swiping through the pictures, they don't come off my messages onto that roll of pictures unless I download them.
iPhones either. And I'm not saying Mike is innocent in that part, at least, It's no, I totally believe that happened. I do think Mike is a bit of a gaslighter in that, there are legitimate things that Natalie has grievances over, but he plays dumb to the camera. I don't know, she's just being jealous and crazy for no reason, and kind of telling her, I don't know why you don't trust me. I don't know why you're not talking to me, why you're upset. It's just oh my gosh, because of these things and to Natalie, or to Mike's credit, Natalie isn't the best at communicating exactly what is wrong.
Correct.
But, so I think he does. He takes that to his advantage and is just oh yeah, I don't know. She's being crazy. She's upset.
Right. And
for no reason.
and even the way when she does finally say something, for instance, that was wrong, when she brings up the boobs on the phone, or basically naked pictures of another woman he had on his phone, of an ex that he had on his phone.
Yeah.
That would be one thing if you're Mike, I found naked pictures of an ex on your phone. That, everybody would be okay, but she's just always what about phone boobs? And everybody's what, phone boobs? What is she yelling about? What is she boobs on phone? She boobs phone boobs. And it's okay, which I get is totally a language barrier thing, but it does make her look crazy in that she doesn't say what it is in a way that doesn't sound anything but humorous.
Well, and I think just her reactions to a lot of these things make it hard to really take her seriously because, I mean, if you paid attention, they kept on going back to her when, people were accusing her of things. She just had these weird, smirks on her face half the time. And then the other half of the time, she looked like she was going to cry or was crying. So it's just it kind of went between, it was very, the cat with the mouse in the mouth. I forget what the
cat
goes.
that caught the mouse. Yeah.
Yes, she very much had that look on her face a couple times, especially when they were talking about the.
I always call that a shit-eating grin, but okay.
Yes, the New Orleans guy, when they were talking about that, she had that look on her face where it's just you seemed really pleased with yourself, but at the same time, it's just then she gets all defensive and looks like she's gonna cry, and it's just yeah, I can kind of see if you're just kind of reading into her facial expressions that you're just I don't know what's going on with this lady.
Yeah, you can't. She makes the weirdest faces, and she does all the time.
She really does.
It does not match up with what she's feeling at all. So she's a very, very hard person to read. Her language barrier is there too, but her body language is extremely difficult to read.
Yeah. So there was one thing that I got kind of annoyed with. So they were talking about the fact that Natalie had moved to Florida. And Mike says, I'm not going to move to Florida. I'm not going to sacrifice my job and move for her. And it's okay, let's think here. What do you think Natalie did for you?
Yes.
And I know he doesn't see that because he sees it as, she wanted to be in the U.S. So he doesn't think about the sacrifices that she made to be there with him because he's just she wanted this anyway. But it's if you think about it, she also, quit her job and moved here for him. So. Yeah,
and she's not even asking him to leave the country. Yeah.
Right. Why couldn't he consider, a move and a change? I'm not saying that would have fixed anything. In fact, as a separate side note, it just kind of came out today that Paula and Russ,
right,
they're actually separated. And so it's she wanted to move to Miami and kind of dragged Russ along, and it didn't work out. And what was the first thing Russ did? Pieced out of Florida. So
did he go back to Oklahoma? Because
I guess he did. That would be my guess. But
the thing is she even said in hers when she talked, she would have been happy if he just moved to Seattle.
Yes, that's true. She didn't want to live in the woods. And honestly, it sounds like a move to Seattle would have worked for them in a lot of like ways because
Closer to
he
his
was
job.
commuting. Yeah, 2 hours. So I don't know. I just think he was being really stubborn about it. And he likes where he lives.
And that was the thing too. That was Trish's like, oh, you need to find another woman. What was her criteria for that woman? A woman who wants to live on your ranch. Like that's number one thing you need to look for in a woman is does she want to live on your ranch? Because apparently that's the most important thing in his life is that he lives on this specific ranch.
Wow. Yeah. So there was definitely a lot going on with them. I don't really know if I was really team Mike or team Natalie.
I mean, it's so long. It's been so long. I've been on team nobody. These are both not good people who are not good for each other.
But I did think it was interesting that before, because Mike arrived after Natalie, before when they were behind the scenes, how everyone was like, oh, don't worry, we'll be there for you, to Natalie. And then that seemed to have
that went away
gone
real
by
fast.
the wayside immediately. Yeah.
Well, as soon as they found out she was it really seemed to rub everybody the wrong way. They're like, if you want to leave him, fine. But you're not making anybody's case that you're just here for the green card if you didn't go back to Ukraine.
Right. Yeah, exactly. All right. Let's talk Brandon and Julia. So they, checked in with them and found out that things have been rough because there have been a lot of arguments. Julia thinks that they aren't, far enough away from the farm, and Brandon is actually missing farm life. Julia doesn't want to fight, but she also wants to be truthful to everyone's face. And this is in response to, I'm speculating, just how she was perceived at the last tell-all. Yes. She was just like, well, I'm going to, talk shit to people's face instead of behind their backs. Brandon then tells us that living away from his parents is just like living with them. The only difference is that he doesn't run into them in the hall. And he's at least happy about the increased amount of sex now that they've moved out. Julia's still a little embarrassed about other people hearing them having sex, so, they're not completely free. Brandon, he says he's missing farm life, and he doesn't really think he's cut out for the city. The reason they go back all the time is because of Simba, their dog, but also because Ron and Betty, want to have their weekly dinners with them. The conversation then shifts to family planning, which includes Julia puncturing holes in condoms for some reason. I was kind of unclear what that comment or story was because I was like, oh, but wait. Then she says 2 seconds later that they don't even use condoms. And that's a problem because, as you all recall, Julia is not using any form of birth control because she does not agree with it. So I'm calling shenanigans on that. I think they're using condoms, and she realized halfway through, was like, oh no, this is off brand. I'm supposed to be not using condoms. Oh gosh. Yeah. But anyways. So Brandon says living with Julia has been hard because she is crazy jealous and he can't have any friends that are girls. Julia doesn't have any friends, but Brandon points out that it's because she doesn't even try. Brandon thinks the jealousy is so bad that at some point in the future, it may just push them apart. Julia even insists that she's never not going to be jealous and that she's just not going to change. Julia says that she's been cheated on by every boyfriend, and Brandon says he can totally see why. And, why is that? Because, she's just too controlling. Ron and Betty join remotely and bring up, a property next door that's up for sale, and they offer to help them with the down payment. But Julia insists that they will not accept the help because, one, it's too close to the farm, and then two, because she wants any home that they buy to be entirely theirs. Brandon gets emotional when it comes out that Ron is having some health challenges, as they put it. He says it's difficult to talk about, and then after they kind of bring it up, Brandon just kind of shuts down emotionally. He's too emotional about it, and it's been agreed upon by Ron and Brandon that they will not be talking about details of this at the tell-all. Julia just says she just doesn't want to go back to any farm. And then Sean just kind of gives them, her sympathies for their situation.
Sure.
All right. So Not any new news. Just kind of, I guess, a small update on their living situation. But one thing that I thought was kind of interesting is their whole conversation about Julia's jealousy. Because Julia was saying, like, nope, not going to happen. I'm never not going to be jealous. I will always be jealous. You're not going to change that. And she has no desire to change. I don't know if she really can. And that's probably why she probably thinks she can't, which is why she said, nope, that's just me.
Right.
But then, when pushed, Brandon says, yeah, I could potentially end this at some point if it gets too bad. So who do you think will give in? Because is Brandon just going to accept that he can't have any friends that are girls? Or is Julia just going to have to accept that, there's no merit to her jealousy and she just has to accept their friendship?
I mean, it's hard because they're both relatively young, right? And for her to be like, I'm always going to be jealous, I think is projecting a little bit too far into the future, because I kind of don't like I really didn't like Brandon's assessment of, when she was like, oh, like literally every person I've been with has cheated on me. Yeah. Has been like, as his assessment that's a because of the jealousy and not like the source of the jealousy.
Right, right.
And so I feel like the more, it's a timetable thing, the more he's with her and the more she can trust him and he shows more trust, the less the jealousy is not going to go away, but it's not going to be as raw and as strong as it is now, when it's been like, well, yeah, for like 5 years in my 20s, all my boyfriends cheated on me. But then for the next 10 years, I was with one dude who was faithful to me the whole time. Like that, it makes it not be quite as deep, and you can manage having the like female friends and stuff. That said, I couldn't date somebody, be married to somebody who was like, you can't talk to any women. I couldn't do that. Like, so I don't know.
I'm surprised this hasn't come up before, because Brandon seemed to be genuinely surprised when she made the comment, like, I've never had a boyfriend that hasn't cheated on me. Because it's like, that also leads me to believe that they have never talked or tried to resolve this jealousy issue. It's been more like a, oh, you're jealous. Oh, yeah, I'm jealous. You just have to deal with it. It's like, well, have you ever thought about, why you're jealous? Is there anything I can do to make you feel more reassured? It's like, I feel like these are some conversations that they should have been having instead of, focusing on the product of whatever really the deep-rooted issue is here, because he shouldn't be hearing that this is the first time, he shouldn't be hearing this for the first time,
No, I mean, I definitely feel like, why have you broken up with your previous serious, like, it's kind of like the job interview question, like, why did you leave your last job? Like, that's
right.
That's kind of a standard, like, into a new relationship conversation you generally have, right? And so, yeah, definitely should have come up, but they're not the only thing they don't discuss. Just like when she mentioned, oh, the baby's bassinet would look great over there, and Brandon's like, we never talked about having kids before. Like, not even like when we have kids, it'll be like this. If we decide to have kids in this apartment, it'll be nice. They didn't have that surface level conversation about kids. That's insane.
Yeah, well, the more I hear from her, the more I realize that maybe Brandon was on to something when they were talking about, like, this was many episodes ago when she was trying to find a job, and he was kind of like, her English isn't that great. He might have been on to something, because I definitely feel like as time has gone on, her English to me definitely does not seem as good as maybe as I originally had thought it was. And so I think having these conversations can be more difficult because you're talking about complex things. And then, to Julia's credit, it's difficult to learn a second language and to learn kind of like, the vocabulary necessary to have these kind of deep conversations. That probably isn't super easy.
Like, English is there's like 5 different words that means the same thing but carry subtle different connotations to them. It's very difficult.
Yeah. Oh gosh, that reminds me of there was a person that was like in charge of this like competition for our school, and I was in a meeting, and they were talking about how we could recruit students to like participate in this, and this person was not English as their first language, and so she said we need to come up with sexy prizes, and I was just like, ew, what? It's like, please don't use sexy in the context of students ever.
Ever. Just stop.
But I got what she was like thinking, because
she
like
wanted,
sexy means
desirable,
attractive.
Yeah, totally.
Yes,
Whereas,
but you're just like, no, you can't say that. That's just weird.
Yeah. But that's exactly what I'm talking about. Is if she said something like that, people would be like, that's weird, and she wouldn't take it as being like, oh, I used the wrong synonym that carried a slightly wrong connotation. She would be like, it's weird that I want to have prizes for the kids. Yeah, okay, I'm lost now,
Yeah. But and then also Julia, so to her credit, English as a second language, difficult and challenging. We get it. But she also gets really fired up and frustrated. And so I think that definitely makes things worse. And so she kind of just starts yelling out words without kind of putting it into a complete sentence. So you kind of get the general idea of what she's trying to say, but it's kind of like, ooh, it's hard to follow. It's hard to follow a logical argument. I
mean, I think the other thing that's going to be an issue for them is just she's a city girl and he's a country guy.
Yeah, but they should have figured it out that day one. Like, he was living on the farm. She couldn't have been that surprised by it.
I know.
She just assumed that the world is full of cities.
Yes, I think she did, because I think her world is full of cities. And I mean, and she, especially if she's satisfied with Richmond, like, because she'd made that same point, that same kind of adjacent to what Mike and Natalie did with the Florida. I'm not moving to Florida for her. Yeah, is like she's getting really tired of Betty being like, you're so far away. And she's like, I'm a 19-hour plane ride away from my mom. Shut up.
Right.
And stop telling your son is too far away because he's a half-hour drive. Like, it's not the same. Mm-hmm. And, like, because she's not asking for, maybe she will in the future, but she's not asking for Miami or New York or Vegas. She's fine with Richmond. But he's just like, no, I need my... Now, maybe if she knew that, when they're in a fully detached house where there's nobody within a half mile, she can be as loud as she wants in bed and she won't be embarrassed by anybody in the apartment.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I thought the logical conclusion would be like, just buy the place next door.
Yeah, it just seems like, I feel like she thinks, hey, it's not in the city. And Richmond is not a giant city, but it's clearly a city. Right. And there's places you can walk to. I really think that's the biggest thing. Is she just wants to be able to walk somewhere. I want to be able to walk and go somewhere. That's not too much to ask.
Because she doesn't have a car, because if she doesn't have her license, maybe I don't know. Maybe she's never had a license.
I feel like a lot of people who grew up in cities, in big cities, in European cities, they just don't like, I don't want to have to get in a car and go anywhere. I just want to go to the park. Like, can I just please, I don't have a park I can go to, I don't have a library I can go to, I don't have a store I can waste some time and just go to the market. I have to get into a car for all of those things. Yeah. It does get frustrating. All right, so speaking of frustrating, we have Angela and Michael. So Michael's still in Nigeria, and Angela, tries to play up drama and shows up exactly after everybody else, like right when the show is about to start. She can't wait to show off her new goal-weight body, which the rest of the cast annoyingly cheers about when she comes in. Not that it didn't look good, but the fact that it was like, please don't encourage Angela.
Yes, it was definitely encouraging her to strut around.
Yes. So her new body, by the way, also includes new breast implants.
Yeah.
Which is a surgery Michael did not object to. In the aftermath of Mike and Natalie, they're in the backstage, and she does this weird thing where she puts her leg up on Mike's lap. I don't know. I was very confused, but it kind of fits into the theme that we get to later. So eventually, Angela recaps why she was so upset with Michael after her surgeries. So then we have a lot of talk about Angela's boobs and her health and whatever. When Michael says it's not a common thing to have weight loss, it's not a common thing to have weight loss surgery in Nigeria, Angela pipes up and says that's because they like people who are fat in Nigeria because it's a sign of status. And Asuelu is like, yep, same here. Same in Samoa. I was a skinny guy. Nobody liked me. Yeah. I was like, yeah. So she breaks down crying, talking about how painful it was that Michael wasn't supportive, and actually kind of made fun of her small boobs after the surgery. Skyla comes out and sit on the remote guest couch. She doesn't really say much before they do a clip recounting Angela's weird flirting with Dr. Obang. So Michael says that he was uncomfortable with that, and then Kalani brings up the fact that, you know, if Michael had done the same thing, Angela would have been super pissed.
Yeah.
So Sean asks a leading question, and Angela admits that she went to Dr. Obang's birthday party, but with Skyla, but doesn't admit that she spent some more time alone with Dr. Obang, and something weird about a producer driving home. Turns out that what happens, Michael starts to freak out, and Angela says that what happened is that she was feeling sick at the party, and Dr. Obang, who, remember, it's his birthday party, just drove her home to take care of her. I don't know. Anyway, this shit has not been stirred enough yet. So, you know, Michael's upset about this, and Angela keeps saying, I was sick. I wasn't feeling well. That's weird. Anyway, because this shit hasn't been stirred enough yet, they bring on Michael's Aunt Lydia. So they ask her opinion about the surgeries, and I think Lydia gets in maybe 3 or 4 words, maybe 5 words, before Angela just completely loses her shit again. So she starts yelling about babies, and it really is once the word surrogate came up that she just lost all control. And then it was like, don't point your finger at me. Why are you so up in Michael's business? Are you screwing him? A bunch of crosstalk. And then she ends up finding which camera that Lydia is looking on. So she goes and yells at it and says, you can't talk to me like that, over and over again, until she just flashes her boobs at her for reasons that I guess only make sense to Angela. But anyway, as she's walking off stage, she flashes them again and says, you won't see these goddamn tits again, as if, like, seriously, like Kitty from Arrested Development, which I know you didn't watch, but it makes a lot of sense for the people who know it. Say goodbye to these, because you'll never see them again. Okay, so scale of 1 to 10. How real was this, or how was just Angela auditioning for next season?
Yes, I was just going to say that exact same thing. Angela, she knows to bring it at the tell-all. That's why she made a big production of strutting her stuff, you know, whipping her hair around. Just stirring up the drama. I really could have lived without the flashing, because like I said, I was confused how it helped or hurt her argument. It just seemed absolutely irrelevant. Whatever.
I don't understand what that had to do with the argument at all. No. It made no sense at all.
Right.
It wasn't like a FU. It didn't a thing. Nobody mentioned the boobs in the argument. It didn't make any sense at all why she flashed the camera. Except for as a clip to show everybody.
Yeah, the thing that I was the most annoyed about is Michael is absolutely right. If that were the other way around and Michael was in a situation like that, Angela would have flipped the F out, you know?
Yes.
And it just doesn't seem fair that she just kind of like bullies her way into, you know, doing whatever she wants and she can justify it, you know? And then it's like, it's not to say that she wouldn't forgive Michael, but, you know, she's going to sure as hell give him a hard time to let him know that that behavior was not okay. Yes. And then eventually forgive him.
I mean, I think she was very, very adamant and skilled about keeping the parameters of the conversation where she wanted them. And she was not having the argument that Michael was having.
Right.
She was like, it's okay that he drove me home. He was my doctor. I was sick. He's taking care of me because I pay him to do that, blah, blah, blah. And it was like all fine. And Michael probably would have been fine with that, except for the fact that he was like, I'm hearing about this for the first time now. Yeah. You didn't tell me this when it happened, so obviously you were hiding it. And B, if I would have gotten a ride home with a female doctor, we would be divorced.
Yes.
Like you would not be with me. That end of story. And it has nothing to do with what your justification was or anything. It has everything to do with the double standard and the hiding things from me. Because she was 100% wrong on that fact, and he was 100% right. Like, it is a double standard, and that's not okay.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so that was pretty much their situation. So I guess we'll hear from the other group next week.
Yeah, and I imagine we're probably going to hear some more stuff from some of these groups too. Maybe, or I don't know, maybe it'll just be the 3 next week. That seems to be all that we really saw in the preview, right?
Yeah, definitely. All right, who was your student of the week?
All right, my student of the week was Jovi, actually. We didn't have him as a person, but I appreciate that he kept things moving. Like I don't usually like people who don't stay in their lane, but that's usually when they're being judgy. But when Natalie was like, I'm not seeing everybody, he was like, wait a second. Nope. Yes, you are. I'm going to speak up now. That keeps the story moving. That's telling all. That's what we need more of.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting. I actually couldn't come up with a student of the week. I don't know if that's the cheaty way out, but it was I didn't think anyone was particularly good. I guess Brandon? Just because of all the things he's...
Nope. I'm nixing Brandon because he was like, well, I guess I know why everybody cheated on you.
Oh, sure. Yeah. So if you're not letting me have Brandon as student of the week, I have no one.
All right.
Okay, what about your dunce?
My dunce is Angela, just because I'm tired of this act. I'm just tired of watching her do her same thing and then know I got to scream at somebody at this tell-all and, they brought on the guest, so my time's almost up. Better start screaming at her. It was entertaining until it's I have seen this show too many times to know what's going on.
Yes, and I mean, gosh, she's been on for many seasons. What is this, her 4th or 5th season?
Yeah, it's got to be.
Yeah, oh my gosh, we've seen a lot of her. All right, so my dunce I actually put is Natalie. And I think what kind of pushed it over the edge was her whole wait a second, I have never hung out with another man. I've never, and then all of a sudden these things come out. And it's just all right. How dumb are you? Jovi and Yara are on the show. You really think they wouldn't tell production about this or bring it up themselves? How dumb are you? Right. And so trying to hide it, and then just the process of her hiding it just made it seem all the more shady and like she was lying about the situation. So quite honestly, do I trust her that this was just a friend? No, absolutely not.
No, definitely not. Nope.
Because that is not the impression I got based on what went down. So Natalie, you are a dunce.
Okay, I can see that. So my life lesson, and it's I know I already did Angela, but I feel there wasn't that many groups, first of all. But and it was kind of what we touched on before. It's inappropriate and unfair to hold your partner to a different standard than you hold yourself. And that's just all she does. So that's just about it. Short and sweet.
Right. Agreed. Mine is also inspired from Angela, maybe in a little more lighthearted way, but there's no argument where it's appropriate to flash your boobs in a threatening way.
I don't even know how, why are you supposed to be afraid of her boobs? I'm very confused.
I don't know, but I mean, I get it if you're, I mean, I could kind of see this as happening as someone trying to diffuse the situation, hey, look at this, and flash your boobs, to try, change the tone.
Is if 2 other people are fighting and you're oh no, I need to distract everyone and get them thinking about something else.
Or even, I guess, if it was you and someone else, something like that. And people do that, right? They try to change the tone by cracking a joke or something.
Sure.
So I could see that. I wouldn't say it's the most appropriate thing to do. It's not really super productive in this whatever argument, but
no.
I don't think flashing them in a menacing kind of way is I cannot picture a scenario where that's appropriate.
Don't flash your tits in anger is what you're saying. Flashing your tits is a playful activity that you should do in joy and not in anger.
Right, exactly. All right, so we still have part 2 of this tell-all, and then I feel like we have the other way coming up, or is it already started?
Boom. No, it's tell-all next Sunday, other way the Sunday after that.
Yeah, you know how I knew the other way was coming up is because it started showing up on my DVR because they're starting to play episodes.
They're starting to play last season. Yep, that's right. I thought the same thing. I was flipping through the TV. It was the other way. And I was oh, right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Coming up.
Next week, we'll also be covering Darcy and Stacey, a couple episodes, a chunk of episodes.
Oh, and we also have to do our power rankings.
Yes, exactly, because it's the end of the season. So power rankings will be next week. All right.
right.
So we will be back around this time next week. And until then,
All right. See everybody then.
okay. Bye.
Take care. Bye.